Hi, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Roundup with Immutable Holdings, where we cover the key developments and happenings across Web3 and the digital asset ecosystem, along with sharing some of the recent updates and developments within Immutable Holdings. My name is Billy Baxter. I'm the head of corporate development and operations.
I'm Jordan Freed. I'm the founder and CEO of Immutable Holdings.
I guess we're heading into the holiday season here, but it seems, and we just wrapped up November, but it seems like, as the weeks go by, the news is, just flooded with tons of information out there. Obviously, the biggest headline that's been out there is this whole, what I'm dubbing the FTX saga. So I guess, Jordan, we saw this past week, there was a couple of mainstream interviews that Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX, with some really mainstream outlets. What were kind of some of your takeaways that you had, and what was your kind of overall impressions of that? And are we going to get any new developments as it relates to FTX?
Yeah, it's clear that Sam's in a lot of trouble, Billy. And it's clear that him and his legal team know that he's in trouble. It's also clear that Sam, from a public perception in the court of public opinion, Sam has taken a massive hit. He's gone from the darling of CNBC, reported to be the JP Morgan of crypto, the whiz kid of crypto, to now the individual who's largely responsible for what will go down as one of the greatest collapses in not just crypto history, but business history, period. We're looking at something that is likely multiples of the size of Enron or previous bankruptcies that have come before it. Sam has this week changed his tune on his position, really starting with the New York Times Deal Book event. But even we saw a few leaks of smaller interviews before that. But Sam has taken taken matters into, or is trying to take matters into his own hands, and now joining the narrative. Before, the narrative was largely dictated by citizen journalists on Twitter and speculation in traditional media of people trying to figure out what happened here. How did the second largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world collapse? Sam has now, we saw him first grace the stage virtually, among other notable speakers at New York Times Deal Book event with Andrew Ross Sorkin this past week. We saw him on Good Morning America with George
Stephanopoulos. Yeah.
Yes.
Hard name to pronounce.
And we saw him on a Twitter space this week. There's more interviews lined up. Sam's taken the show on the road. The truth of the matter is, and I just want to echo the core points of this, the fundamentals of blockchain technology and the value that it brings have not changed. The fundamentals of Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin, a store value asset, have not changed. These are still really impactful technologies, and the same is true for NFTs. The value of that has not changed. What we saw here is the collapse of a really irresponsible individual who likely lied and allegedly committed fraud and allegedly committed material misrepresentations. The Department of Justice is opening up a probe to take matters into their own hands and investigate what's happening with FTX. And I have a high degree of confidence that prosecutors will get this right. I have a high degree of confidence that, be it the Southern District of New York or some international prosecution will take place, and hopefully justice will be served. I believe, frankly, that Sam is responsible for this collapse, that Sam knowingly lied on several occasions here and knew that they were taking user funds and using them in his private personal hedge fund, Alameda, and that's got to be addressed. Justice has to be served there. So this is going to be going on, and likely a topic that we're going to be hearing about for weeks. But I want to throw out a couple just key reminders to people who are worried about this. We are just now wrapping up the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers, and this is more than a decade after that bankruptcy. This is going to take years to unwind, years for the story to tell. But while this is happening, the blockchain continues block by block. We add new chains to the block. People are going to continue to build, and adoption is going to continue to grow. We are on the other side of the Rubicon for the whole. I think one of the arguments, Billy, people have with me a lot is, aren't you afraid Bitcoin's going to zero? Aren't you afraid that crypto is going to zero? And my answer to that is no. We are on the other side of the Rubicon from the perspective that there are too many believers and there are too many people bought in and adopting this thing. And there's too many people now that weren't sellers at 10,000. They weren't sellers at 5,000. They weren't sellers at 3,000. They're not going to be sellers at 300. There's just far too many people who are bought in and who are dedicated to building up this ecosystem. Adoption's inevitable. The number of companies that have this as a balance sheet item, we already have a central bank in the world that has this as a balance sheet item. I'm very confident that Bitcoin is here to stay, that the blockchain is here to stay. And this business is really dedicated, as we've stated in our mission statement, to build businesses that make it easier for people to use public blockchain networks and digital assets like NFTs native to those networks. So my thoughts on this past week in FTX.
Yeah. And then I just have to ask this too. Obviously, another big news event from this past week was BlockFi officially filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And then an interesting development where they actually sued Sam Bankman-Fried to basically countersued him as part of to obtain some collateral that he had posted on like a loan there. The reason I just bring this up, obviously, is sad development to see BlockFi file for bankruptcy there, but to this whole FTX like saga that's continuing here. Like, do we think we're going to see any other kind of contagion here? Like, are we through the thick of it, or should we kind of still wait things out over the next weeks to months like ahead there? And I know I asked this actually the last time that we spoke to, but I just figured.
No, things are changing so quickly now. So I think it's important to keep touching on this week to week. Yes, we did see the BlockFi bankruptcy. That, as witnessed by the price action in the market, that was a surprise to no one. Everyone expected that to happen. We already knew BlockFi was in trouble when FTX first bailed them out and first acquired them. It just turns out they sold to the wrong buyer. Right. Had they sold to Binance or had they sold to, any other hedge fund or any other private equity firm that had the kind of capital to take them under their wing, things would have been different. BlockFi wouldn't have been bankrupt in this particular case. But obviously they sold to the wrong suitor and they're another victim of FTX. We will see a decreasing number of companies affected. We still have the uncertainty around what's going to happen with Genesis, but there are a lot of smart people working on that. The investment bank Mullis and a bunch of others that are actively working on potential solutions to the liquidity there, along with the digital currency group and just other key stakeholders. There's still the Gemini Earn, and there's likely a couple other crypto exchanges. We're near the end of the cascading effects of this ending. I wouldn't be surprised to see, another couple dominoes fall, but nothing the size of, each one is smaller. Obviously, BlockFi is orders of magnitude smaller in terms of, the impact of that bankruptcy than FTX itself. There will likely be a few other smaller parties. The smartest thing to do in this space is, frankly, what we've done, and we're leading by example, which is make sure you've got multiple years of cash on hand. If you do not have multiple years of cash on hand, cash is going to be oxygen during this downturn. And those that have it that aren't dependent on being able to capitalize in this market are going to be the best suited. So I think we're close to the end of it. I wouldn't say bottom is in yet, but you can kind of see the signs of peak capitulation. It's either here or it's close.
It's great. And I guess I would also say too, not saying that this is the most reputable signal, but just following crypto news, I noticed that we started to see a little bit of a pullback from all the coverage to FTX to now shifting back to just the regular updates that are happening in the ecosystem, which kind of brings me to the next transition here. Another kind of like big development this past week, or actually as of Thursday this past week, we saw Coinbase making some announcements over Twitter that their latest release of their Coinbase wallet app, so like their self-custody app, they were pushing an update through the App Store, the iOS App Store, and actually Apple blocked them from making the update. And then according to Coinbase, the reason why Apple was blocking that update was that Apple was looking to enforce, their standard kind of 30%, I guess if you want to call it tax on the Coinbase app, but specifically in regards to collecting 30% of gas fees. And then by virtue of that, it looks like Coinbase had to turn off the ability to transfer NFTs between wallets on their apps. So kind of an interesting development. Obviously, this whole debate around, tech monopolies, especially like Apple with their app store, has been front and center. But to see this come up in kind of crypto, specifically Coinbase, and then also touching upon, NFTs, what's your kind of take on this whole situation, Jordan?
Yeah, it's going to put Apple in a very challenging situation. They do have monopolistic control over that store. It's far too much power. It's one of the more popular mobile devices in the world, and the same is true for the Google Play Store on Android devices. These two things, these stores have to be broken up. The sort of control on taxing, it's effectively a toll tax of 30% across the board for any in-app purchase. That's not just the buying and selling of NFTs, but that's anything you do on an iOS or Android device. That model is what's at stake here. That model is what's being challenged. And we've even seen Elon this past week join in. I know he ended up meeting with Tim Cook this past week as well to actually have that discussion on, fear that Twitter could be removed from the App Store. But this sort of blatant censorship and this sort of blatant, like, hey, we're going to take a third of your entire business turnover. This is, we're going to start to see this play out. And this is really, it goes back to the whole need for decentralization online. The ability to be able to conduct commerce with someone on the opposite side of the planet without an intermediary like a Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, taking 2% of the transaction, taking a settlement fee just for sending that money. That's one of the fundamental value propositions, the disintermediation of the middlemen. And I expect to see many working on this. There already are. There's lots of great initiatives coming out of the crypto community. One is called Decentral Phone, I believe. There's one in the Solana community where folks are literally building a mobile device in that ecosystem and a mobile operating system. I expect to see a massive battle for this. I wouldn't be surprised to see this eventually in a future Supreme Court case. This is going to be challenged, and people are going to want non-custodial solutions and the ability to use apps on their mobile device without, and creators who've created those apps without having to be taxed at 30%. Of course, that tax, while you may say, hey, I'm not paying it, that's the creator of the app. It's not true. It ends up getting passed to the user in one way, shape, or, another form. So this is big. I'm very passionate about this. I think Apple's got to look for alternative ways to monetize than just taking, something from all of our in-app purchases. But we'll be watching this. We'll be watching this closely. Look for many exciting open source mobile devices. This device, we all have them. Like this device, you can create this device. It's not too difficult to create the hardware on this. I expect to see mobile phones with open source software that really embrace that whole notion of, a decentralized app store without a central control authority determining what apps can be published, what apps can't be published. And that'll either come in the form of jailbreaking phones, which is already a very common, popular thing, or an entirely new alternative to the iOS operating system entirely.
Awesome. Well, I guess, Jordan, this development between Coinbase and Apple kind of was maybe not the best news as it relates to NFTs, because essentially we block users from transferring NFTs on the Coinbase wallet. But I guess looking to some good news that we heard this past week, we found out that Uniswap, the largest decentralized exchange platform globally, announced that they are now supporting NFT trading. But what was interesting about this announcement was that rather than Uniswap actually launching kind of their own, decentralized exchange for NFTs, they went the route of creating a marketplace aggregator where basically they're pulling information from 9 different marketplaces, to then allow users to aggregate pricing data and get, more seamless, seamless and efficient execution there. And I think I saw in one of their press releases that, basically this whole NFT aggregator service that Uniswap has announced is basically them trying to become the Google search for NFT trading. So, given NFTs are near and dear to our hearts, what's your kind of take on this, I guess, relatively good development for the broader ecosystem?
Yeah, I think one of the big lessons that's coming out of the crypto ecosystem today, and we need these lessons, right? We, as an industry, need to have conversations like this one and be putting content out there and come to consensus on what is the problem set, what were the problems that led the industry to where we are right now, what led to our crash. We can't blame it on macroeconomic factors. We can't blame it on rising interest rate environments. A run on the bank should never be able to happen for a cryptocurrency exchange if there were a proper proof of reserves. Perhaps we could have those as Merkle trees. If you look at the opportunity for our space, it's to embrace a non-custodial relationship between a user's assets and the platforms that they use. And the NFT space sort of natively has already done that. One of the things I'm proudest of in our space is most of the platforms out there, and Uniswap is a great example in the DeFi space, is non-custodial. Uniswap never takes possession of a user's assets. Uniswap is powered by open source smart contracts that are audited on the Ethereum network largely, that anyone can trust, and if you can read the code, you can read it yourself. And this is when you don't have your assets because they're being swapped by these contracts, and then they go to the counterparty or the liquidity pool. It is a fantastic way to operate. I think the value, one, it's validating for us in our architecture. And how we decided to build. We were at first called crazy. I remember even having this conversation with some Immutable Holdings board members and some Immutable Holdings investors that really wanted us to focus on turning NFT.com more into like a crypto.com or an FTX, where we were custodial, where we actually did have the assets and we did have the deposits, but we pushed back hard on that and we stuck to our guns. And I actually think that what's happening in the market is unfortunately, it's the pain. I think a character is built during times of this pain. The industry is learning from this, but the non-custodial nature of a platform like Uniswap and now NFT.com is needed in the space. So I love their architecture. I do love what Uniswap is doing. I welcome competition, and I welcome this as just another sign of validation that we are building something that is inevitably going to have product market fit. Frankly, it already does. On NFT.com, we've had almost 10,000 profiles created. We have thousands of active users in our beta test. Tens of thousands of wallet connections to the platform. We're very excited to leave private beta and eventually get it to public beta early in the new year. But it's very, very, very reassuring and exciting to see this space continue to embrace non-custodial solutions for how value can be exchanged. That's what we need more of.
Awesome. And I guess one could also say too, hey, this is a great step forward to see like another aggregator service out there in the market. But more importantly, what's going to keep users on the site? So that's going to be an interesting kind of like development there is, to have the aggregator, but then also find reasons for people to keep on coming back, to that service. So
sure.
Great development. Well, hey, Jordan, I think this brings us to kind of, the point where we kind of shift away from kind of speaking about the broader ecosystem and kind of talk about ourselves, Immutable Holdings. So what kind of things on our side we're able to kind of like offer up to the community at large, things that are happening within Immutable Holdings?
It's so again, if for us, it's business as usual. As much as I think, we want to be part of the conversation of what's happening in the market for the very important reason that people need to understand that it is business as usual in crypto. What happened is an isolated incident that turned out not to be as isolated as you wanted it to be because of a contagion effect where there was all of this leverage in the ecosystem. But again, it doesn't affect the core blockchains. It doesn't affect the core protocols. It doesn't affect most of, if not all of the NFT ecosystem remains untouched. Other than, of course, a lot of capital that has, fled off of blockchains. People have just been off risk. And we've seen volumes volume slow down pretty drastically. For us, we continue to build a platform, positioning ourselves for when we know that the exuberance around NFTs inevitably returns. We're very focused on partnerships for NFT.com, and these are with large enterprises that we know will use the platform in the future, and we're very confident that we can bring the right partners to the table there. And then our future beta releases. We have a couple more beta releases to do. We ship new beta releases every 2 weeks, as you know, Billy. And these beta releases are helping us achieve a period that we call general availability, where we can move to public beta. We can come out of this private beta where you need a Genesis key to test, and then anyone in the world will be able to use the NFT.com aggregator. For us right now, that means, we have OpenSea and LooksRare aggregated. I believe we just now have I know for sure we have over 9 million. I think we may have just approached 10 million NFTs listed on NFT.com. So that's amazing. Our goal is to have more listings than anyone else on NFT.com. And then getting that platform to public beta as quickly as possible. And again, we hope to do that early in 2023 in the new year, which is soon. It's the beginning of December. It's crazy. It's almost like a month away. I'm nervous, excited. It's our baby, and we really hope the world loves it. And I'm confident that they will. So that's been the core focus. But amidst everything that's happening in the market, we've also wanted to position ourselves as, being helpful and sharing great resource and information. So we've launched a newsletter called Coffee and Crypto. You can find it at www.coffeeandcrypto.com. And Billy, let's make sure we put a link in one of the emails that go out to interested people who subscribe to the Immutable Holdings list. It's grown rapidly. I mean, we just passed 30,000 subscribers on that email list. We launched it really just a short month ago. And I'm amazed at the feedback. It is funny. I don't claim to be the funny one. We have a great writer helping us out, Matt Harrison and Yale, who are contributing and making it what it is. You have, it's called Coffee and Crypto because, you can read it before you finish your morning cup of coffee, and it gives you we call them espresso bites or the espresso shots. The espresso shots are, just the little bits that you need to know, all the top headlines. And then the last sip is more like commentary. And then there's, a daily meme or several memes, just everything you need to know in crypto. We're sending that out now 5 days a week. And again, just the growth in 1 month of 30,000 subscribers. Our goal with that now, just sort of set an expectation. We haven't monetized that from a business perspective. We haven't started to sell ads in it. Our goal really is to continue to grow that community and then create content, much like the platform we're on right now, create video and audio to be able to continue to guide people on their user journey of understanding blockchain and understanding crypto. So that is, you can look more for that from us. From an investor perspective, for those that are listening, hey, how does Immutable Holdings make money with this? Well, I mean, I think that should be pretty obvious. Building that kind of ecosystem, we're very confident that when we build that trust and that relationship with our readership and our listenership, that we can guide them on their user journey and hopefully, suggest that they use a platform like NFT.com. And that'll benefit some of our other businesses. So those are the really two great focus areas. Fantastic team behind both. Most of my time, almost all of my time, is really spent on NFT.com, as that's where our key our priority is getting that to market. But I just echo my bullish sentiment, especially going into the end of this year. I'm very optimistic of the future. I still believe the best days of not just NFTs, but crypto are very much ahead of us. And I think that you just look at the data and how early we are. I just checked. It's on the Ethereum network today, just as one quick data point. There's only 3.6 million accounts that hold NFTs. The opportunity for us, Ethereum as a network, has over 100 million accounts. So our opportunity is to bring NFTs to not just the existing users of public blockchain networks, to bring new users to public blockchains, and then make sure that they're actively engaged with NFTs. That's a massive multi-billion-dollar, I would argue even multi-trillion-dollar opportunity from a tokenization perspective. So yeah.
100%. We got a very exciting road ahead. So Jordan, this was all I kind of had as far as like my agenda for this week. I guess before we go, is there anything you want to say to the community before we
Yeah,
part?
absolutely. I'm first, just some words for those out there. Please stay safe. If you're new to crypto and you don't know, you don't necessarily know how to store the assets securely, please, please, please be careful. Again, if it's not your keys, it's really not your crypto. We've learned that too much. If you don't know where the yield is coming from, you likely are the yield. So be very careful out there, especially in DeFi and especially with managing your own assets. Maybe we can also link to some helpful resources for how to protect your crypto security in this. But the other note is just I want to thank everybody for their support, not just our team that's working tirelessly even through Thanksgiving to be able to ship new beta release features. We have a new beta release coming up next week. Our design team is doing a great job. We'll continue to work up until the holidays, hopefully catch a quick breather to be with our friends and family for the holidays. And then I want to thank our investors for sticking with us. Those that are still here, we're not going anywhere. We will be here through this bear market for however long it lasts. And I'm extremely confident that Immutable Holdings and NFT.com will be among the greatest beneficiaries of the next bull run. And we intend to win this bear market. So thanks everyone for listening. And Billy, I appreciate you being here to host.
Absolutely. Well, happy to join everyone here in the community and share the latest developments. So I guess with all that being said, thank you all for joining us. If you find these videos to be helpful, make sure to leave a like, and we look forward to talking with you guys next week. So thanks all, and have a good rest of your week.